We're kickstarting the bulletin with the latest news coming in. Judith D'souza has returned home. She was, remember, abducted by the Taliban in Afghanistan. The news of her rescue was earlier announced by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj in her tweet. Sushma Swaraj also said that she'll be brought back to India at the earliest. Judith D'souza has now landed in the national capital. Let's go across to Jugal Purohit, who joins us over the phone lines with more details. Jugal, finally homecoming for Judith. It's a moment of relief, no doubt, for her and her family.
Oh, absolutely. She was in captivity of gangsters. That is the term that the Afghan authorities as well as the Indian side had used. The words used are extremely important. They have not said terrorists, they have not said Taliban. They've in fact said gangsters. A very curious case of she being abducted when her driver and her gunmen were both, completely untouched by these gangsters. And after that, we are aware that the issue was raised not just at the diplomatic level, but also at the senior-most level. The information that we have suggests that Prime Minister Modi, at the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, had actually spoken to the Afghan president on this issue as well. So this is one of those rare diplomatic victories that India has got, where it has secured its national who was abducted in a difficult area out unscathed. Of course, it's a big moment. We were there at the airport. She came with her brother Jerome. They were both escorted by the MEA officials and staff. Now they are on their way to the residence of Sushma Swaraj, where she will be meeting them, and we are given to understand that a press statement also will be issued there. She refused to speak despite requests from our side. There was no word. And that is what we are told will happen at the residence of the Foreign Affairs Minister.
Okay. Jugal, also what we have to point out here is the fact that the government, the steps that were taken by the governments to bring back Judith, where reports, of course, of her being abducted came in on June 9th, a month and a half on. The government recognized the need to help Judith, stepped in and ensured that this was raised at the highest corridors possible. So the government's initiative here definitely needs to be recognized, but also what you did point out is that this wasn't really an abduction by the Taliban but by gangsters. Do we really know who was behind that abduction? Because we know that Judith was an NGO worker. She worked very actively for the Aga Khan Foundation in Kabul.
Well, there's not much known about just who it was, and very often these dealings, the fact that she came out of the entire crisis unscathed, there's a lot which will obviously for now remain unsaid. The very fact that the MEA did not want her to speak to the media, they ensured that there was no press statement, that it will happen in a controlled environment. It does tell you that there is still a lot of things that the government would like to pass out, and there's also things that the government would not like to pass out. What we are aware and what we've been reporting throughout her hostage crisis is the fact that there was a group of gangsters who were being suspected, and not Taliban or any other religious entities who were known for their extreme actions. This was a group of gangsters. As I said, her driver, her gunmen were completely unscathed in the abduction. She was also located in the Shomali area, which was very close to where the driver and the gunmen used to reside. So there's a curious, there's a curious angle to this. Who actually executed the abduction? With whom was she, and with whom, or rather, where from was she finally released? These are details I believe will come out in due course of time. Today, of course, is the day of homecoming for her. The family is extremely happy. They've said they thank the government, Sushma Swaraj, and the MEA for their efforts. And as I said, that at this point in time, the government doesn't want to perhaps let go of a lot of information. Perhaps it's keeping in mind the overall picture and equations that are not known as yet. Back to you.
Absolutely. Jugal, thanks for joining us with those details. For the uninitiated also, Judith's family members had made an appeal to Sushma Swaraj to help in rescuing Judith. Remember, she was abducted on June 9th. 40-year-old Judith, who was working for Aga Khan Foundation as a senior technical advisor, was abducted from Kabul's Kala-e-Fatullah area. This was on June 9th. It was suspected to be by the Taliban, but Jugal's contradicted that. He's told us, of course, that it was possibly gangsters who were behind that abduction. She was, in fact, scheduled to return home that very week in June. Her news of abduction came as an absolute shock